And once again, at a little downtick overnight, two areas of interest. At the first is getting down to that round, getting down to a round Gex gamma level, that 5250 NES. So you're looking at that right now on the chart. Um, I saw that we kind of broke this 5274 area. The moment that we kind of broke that area and we're breaking down after hours, I was paying attention. So I had a rather late night. I was up and at 'em very early this morning, and was able to grab what I grabbed 52, I think. Off that 5250 area, and I was able to take that for to the 66 area, and then rode a few to like 71. I think was that my last fill? I think it was that. No, you know what? I was actually thought it was 72, but I got filled at 70.50. So when the futures move like this, a lot of times the potential trades for the day are long gone already by the time we wake up. Um, so understanding that fact, if I had missed last night, I would have really just accepted the fact that the big part of the trade was already gone, and now we're just going to reestablish some levels, of which the level here would have been, the short at 70.72. That should serve as resistance um, until it's not. And then I would think, because we off of that 5250 area, that was a big algo area. So you can see that was a pretty solid bounce from that area. So certainly not the only one that recognized that. If we get above let me increase the size of this. Bear with me 1 second here. If we get above this area here, it's really, I think it's really straightforward that we will be back in this range. And so the 72 to 79, that area there, we're probably gonna chop around a bit before we're able to retrace and get up to a 52, 95, 97, which was the high of day yesterday. We kept ricocheting off of. So, and as well as that 85, this area probably will serve as some support. Oh my God, I hate these damn things. But yesterday I kept commenting, and I apologize that if I was rather relentless with my emphasizing, but it doesn't take a lot of science to see what we were doing yesterday. If you look at that, I mean, I mentioned in the pre-market that, the potential for a solid range trade was there. And man, it was just Mr. Automatic. And that thing was paying out 12, 13 points. When do we ever get a range trade that's paying 10 to 12, 13 points out 16, 17 times on a 3-minute chart? That is so rare. And then we finally broke down toward the end. I know, Dan, you grabbed along toward the end. And certainly, I mentioned the NDX, but I think you'd already entered your long, and then I threw that out. And unfortunately, you got stopped, and we kind of just had a little bit of a meltdown at the end of the day. So I don't recall what other data do we have coming out here? Let's see. We had initial jobless inventories. Okay,
we got home sales at 10.
Yeah, home sales at 10. All right, and then we have 2 Fed speakers. So that is that. So my expectation for the day is, because basically in ES 52, 72, 73, let that continue to serve as resistance until it's not. And if we get back below the 66, 67 area, you got a V pocket 6 overnight pre-market V pocket 64. We could consolidate in this area. I mean, we could. I'm kind of thinking because the 5250, it's a pretty significant area, and we've now had like a pretty nice downtick the last 2 days. And typically after roughly 2 days, 2.5 days, that's when we have some sort of retrace. So whether it's to the upside or the downside, there's typically a retrace and a consolidation before any further move. So I'm really kind of expecting that we could kind of, consolidate here with the possibility of, getting back up into this area here. So, I mean, it's entirely possible that we could actually retrace up in this area here today. That's possible. Other than that, I'm keeping it really simple. That area is just going to serve as resistance. And as many times as we can short 70.72, I will continue to do it. I will not take a long. That we have to break that area with volume. And that 52.79, I mean, that's a key area. So I'm not going to take a long because I'm not a breakout guy, but there's going to be 5 to 6 point area here where let the market, let it settle. If anything, let it come up here and bounce and then come back along the 70, 72 area for an opportunity where it's a very definable risk. Because that if it trades down 2 more points, it's just going to come back down in here. So let the market be your friend. Let it tell you what to do. With that, I will yield to Dan.
Morning. I'm going to not hit on really indexes a whole ton because I think I agree with what you said there. But so I have actually where I am actually watching for a trade today, I have a decent little setup. I think that could be a nice cash flow trade because sort of we got a big move down yesterday in the afternoon on CRM earnings and software earnings, and now we have this sort of retracement here, and we had, and I'll just touch briefly, but we had GDP, I think it was, that came out. This is the 5-minute chart. Here's where we were. We continued to bounce off this 66.66 now, or 52.66. Now we're back retesting it. Do we hold this and come back up to this 72? Nope, we're breaking below it. It looks like we just cracked below it. But this is pretty key here. If we lose this, I think we're going to go down and back churn this 52.50 area. But if we hold this, we're probably going to come back to this 72. This could be sort of a new little range here that needs to break to one side or the other. And that said, this doesn't look attractive to me. So what happens when things start not looking attractive? I look elsewhere, and this is somewhere where I think there could be a play. So UB up pretty good this morning. It's had a pretty good move. This was that purple box that we talked about over the last 2-3 weeks. Is that I thought that we were going to come auction this area back. Now we're getting and peaking above it. I think we're probably going to come back into this box, and this 22 and then possibly 27 can be some areas where we could get short and then come back into this box and continue to auction it, because this was that big area that was, I don't know, back in April. If we do sort of break out above this, it's a trade I'm not interested in. If we see us continuing to bounce below this, which is my belief, I think that this could be a decent cash flow trade today off 22, possibly off 27. If you go to 27 is right here. So that's from the beginning of May. You've got that wick there. 30 was the wick from, I think that was a data release there. You had CPI back in here, but you've got some spots where you've been bouncing a couple of times on 27, and then this was what was this, yesterday? We continuously bounced off 21. How many hours is that? 1, 2, 3, 4 hours of candles bouncing off 21. So that could be an interesting spot here to retake this back into this area, back down to this yesterday's volume point of control at 121.0102, and then possibly down to 120.19. So I'm going to be watching that. That obviously correlates with RTY. RTY, meh, doesn't really do it for me right now. But this is if we actually break below 121.11, that could be a breakdown trade too, down to 121.02. So there's some cash flowing opportunities on UB today that I think can be, if there's a day where there's indexes that are tough, UB is a place I often look because it trades really technically and respects levels normally. Chewy yesterday, I really wanted to point this out. Let me see here. The volume here, let me actually refresh this. Look at that volume. That is massive volume. Goes back a year. There is not a day that even comes close to that kind of volume. This move is not done, in my opinion. And I'm going to be adding some sort of swing on it. I have the equity. I'm down to a quarter size of the equity. I had a large equity position I took yesterday, so I'm down to a quarter size of it. I'm going to look for some maybe month out options here. I'm thinking we had this gap that we rejected off yesterday at 122.11. This was that little one we talked about, and we need to really get over this 122 area. And if we can get over that 122 area, you have this very low volume area in here back to 25, and then you've got a gap above that to 27. So that volume is just the kicker here, that you don't get that kind of volume on a one and done move normally. So I think this is a good spot to park a little bit of swing cash to see if we can get back into that. And a lot of you guys do swing equity with me. So I think this is a good one to do that on. I don't think it's a bad spot to enter from 20 up to 21. I mean, I think the risk reward is what you're taking $2 of risk down under 19 for $4, possibly $6 of potential gains. And if it gets back in here, you could go back up into the low 30s, and it's just it gets thin. It gets really thin. So I think it's a name that's certainly worth staying in and sticking with long for a little bit here. I'll turn it over.
Good morning. My screen. All right, so I'll just quickly go over indexes because the guys already did. But yesterday, I sort of mentioned that we're breaking down off of this pattern, and the primary target was this 52.42 on the 38 Fibonacci, and we came 7 or 8 points away from that. So that again would be sort of an area, if we do come down and compromise the lows from overnight, I would be looking at that 52.42 as a decent opportunity to watch for a long. And then obviously if we really get flushy beyond that, then we have this 50-day moving average here at 52.16, and then the 50 Fibonacci at 52.03. So if we get some big selling, that's just some levels on the extreme to watch for. On sort of the flip side, I shared this pattern yesterday. It was kind of around here yesterday, and it was I was looking at a different harmonic potential, but said it could flush down and even further, and we're still within this structure. So I wouldn't be surprised if we got to move back up also. It's premature to take anything really, but just be aware of that. And it's not uncommon for, we've had this harmonic structure here, that's now completed. It's bearish, so we're looking for that retrace. But it's not uncommon for this C to D leg to become a X to A leg of a next structure to do something along this line. So we see that a lot. We see back-to-back harmonics. So that would correlate with something like that coming back up, on a smaller time frame, completing this, which is a bearish pattern, but ultimately it's fulfilling the bearish side. This would be the push back up and then fulfilling the bearish nature of this pattern. That might be a little complex, but we can go over that more at another time, but just wanted to sort of give you a view of what I'm looking at, what I'm seeing, and then obviously just looking at these levels on the outside. David had mentioned this 52, 73, 74 area. I just wanted to accentuate that because we have a lot of confluence in that area. General support resistance level, but also I have a weekly pivot at 74 and a quarter. So that's going to be a really key area that, like David said, we got to break through that with volume, see it, find some support there, and then trade within this range here. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. The easy trade, as David said, was off this 50 level this morning. Now we're just kind of watching what we do within this range. Are we going to break up into here? Are we going to break below? And then that level I mentioned from here, 52.42, is going to be right around this level. I'm going to pop that in my chart now because that's kind of key. So we do have a lot of support down in here. If we do dip below here, I've got some pivots just below. I've got some levels of Fibonacci support, some regular support. So we'll see kind of how this plays out. And like I said, really the key resistance level here to break over is this 72, 73 area. On the individuals, Tesla, I shared this yesterday. It was a descending triangle, which is typically bearish. We're looking for sort of a breakdown, retest, and then take it short, but it basically failed. And it broke out, which is good because the bigger pattern that we're hoping plays out, that I'm participating in, is this inverse head and shoulders. And we've gotten a breakout here. We got a breakout. We got a retest. And now we're running. We got to get over this 180 initially. And then this 187.16 is this first Fibonacci to try and get over here. And then we'll see where we go from there. Excuse me. I was kind of looking at Home Depot, mainly because we've got the real estate report coming out at 10 a.m. That might be one to watch as a proxy for real estate. If real estate sucks, Home Depot sucks. So
can you throw a chart up for me? And I want to see what you think.
Sure.
It's an old favorite of you and I's. Made a lot of money playing this name. Burlington Coat Factory. Gapping up on earnings big.
Oh, wow. Holy Nikes. Wow. Yeah, this actually was a nice structure. Again, it's one of my...
It's going to be getting up to this sort of this high area of this, what is that, 230? This is another one that it just gets thin up here over 230. I'll post it in the room because I have that visible range sort of volume profile on.
So how I would play this, if you wanted to play it, is, this is definitely a nice structure. I missed this, but it falls into that crab pattern. So it could get a run up to this 161.8 at 268. but it is a bearish pattern, so you got to be careful. This could fail at any one of these levels and retrace. So, but what were the earnings? Let's look.
Yeah, so
wow.
it looks like over 232. It is a volume nothingness all the way up to like 360 or something, which is the all-time high from during COVID.
Yeah. So that was nice. Yeah, I missed that one. That would have been a decent earnings.
I mean, that was been an earnings gamble, but that's a big gap.
It is for sure. And that's the other thing, you could look at it as a gap fill play, because we're going to have it is a bearish pattern, and you're going to have a, what's this, 200, basically 200 to 232 gap fill potential, which is pretty massive.
I'm going to keep that one on the screen today just because I want to see what they do with the options. I mean, there's some pretty good liquidity in it going into earnings. I want to see if they continue to add liquidity to this one, because I mean, this could be an interesting one of those retail plays that sort of like Abercrombie did, one of those crazy runs,
Right.
just because it is so thin up over 230.
I did notice Best Buy gapped up too, from 71 to 78, 77, 60, I think. Yep.
What's the symbol there? BBY?
BBY is another gapper. I was also looking at Shop as a potential long swing, probably equity. Just a basic, we've got this level here that seems to have consolidated in this zone. We've got a MACD curling, got way oversold conditions on the RSI. We have a gap down here, so this would kind of be your line in the sand, 55, ish. Below would come into this gap down here. But then we have this huge gap up here too. And I looked at it because Goldman raised their price target to 74, which is basically the gap fill. So they're supposed to be fundamental analysts, but I'm pretty sure that has something to do with that. So you're basically looking at, $3-4 risk for $20 upside. So it's a decent RR setup. So I'd be, and again, the MACD is curling down here. So just a nice setup if you're interested in that. Netflix, I was looking at, we got this breakout of this flag yesterday. We've come back overnight, and we've basically found support there. So if you like Netflix, there may be a decent long opportunity off the bell using this level as your support. HIMS tested $20 in the morning session here. That's just going to keep on rocking, I think. As I've mentioned, that's just been a great play. And that's about it, I think, for the day. We got a few minutes till the bell, so.
I'm just going to point out something. I pointed out something in the room, and Prophet, he noticed as well. But we are opening where the SPX did close an April gap, and that was at 52.46. And if you add a spread of basically 16, 17, that puts you right where we're holding a little bit of support in ES, the 64.65. So we're going to open, and the algos, the real-time hours algos, they can, they're noting that area is a level of support, even though that we had traded much lower overnight in the SPOOs. So that will, and that's really where the overnight VPOC is. So that I would draw a line there that's basically in some interim support and a big pivot level. So just a note on that. So that is an area of significance. Other than that, get your coffee. Awesome. Wheels up in 2 minutes.
Yep. Have a good day. We'll be in the room.
Good luck, everybody.